Welcome to What Just Happened. And this is the time of month when I bring Todd on to talk about just some of the things I've been writing about because we cope with life so differently. And if you guys have been following along, you know that I've been writing a lot about fatigue and resting my brain and all that kind of stuff. And Todd, who I've always looked at as the Energizer Bunny, has been tired too and really struggling with fatigue. I mean, here we are caring for a 4-year-old with a lot of special needs, and Todd's starting a new career. And so I just wanted to get his take on fatigue. So here's Todd.
Yeah, thank you, Patty. It's an honor to be on your show today. So, you know, where do you start when you want to talk about fatigue? I think it's a challenge, and I think honestly at the end of the day, as older we get, we are going to struggle with fatigues at different times in our life, but certainly as we get older. And I remember just really thinking about this a lot, being in the ministry almost 40 years. There was a time in the ministry that it was just emotionally fatiguing. I mean, you couldn't leave your job. The job was always with you. Then we got out of the ministry for about 2 years, and then I was physically fatigued. And I remember going to work and, the day before just sitting on the bed and wanting to cry, because I'm putting all these hours in and just it was really kind of backbreaking physically. And, it was just, I realized that, life is just, you're going to be tired. If you're pushing yourself emotionally or physically or investing yourself, you're going to have times of fatigue. And as Patty said, now having a 4-year-old and plus in our 60s, fatigue is real, and you got to deal with it because the issues that you're dealing with aren't just going to go away. So I thought about it some, and I came up with 5 different things that I think can cause fatigue. And, I want to address them here briefly. But, the first thing is just how much sleep are you getting? Check your sleep check. And, do you get 7-8 hours a night? Some people might think that's a luxury. Other people, get 8-9 hours. But you got to ask yourself, when I wake up in the morning, do I feel rested? For me, for instance, I love getting up in the morning. I probably get up at like 4:35 in the morning because my coffee's ready. I love to read. The house is quiet. Boom, I jump up and I'm ready to go. After I take a quick nap, maybe later in the afternoon, 10-minute nap, 5-10 minutes, boom, I'm ready to go. And I feel very invigorated. But besides just having a sleep check, are you snoring? Do you wake up gasping? Do you watch TV or read from your phone right before you're ready to go to bed, or you're on caffeine maybe before you go to bed? Those things will affect your sleep, your ability to really rest and sleep. And so I think you got to be honest. And I know some people can get by with 5 hours a night. I can't. And even those who say they do, I'm not sure how long they'll last and if they're really honest about if they're fatigued or not. So that's number 1. Number 2 is just nutrition, hydration. Honestly, if you're dehydrated, it will affect your sleep. If you're not getting daily intake of water, it's going to affect you. Also, eating things like protein, fruit and vegetables, a complete carb. Checking your irons and your B12s, that does affect it a little bit. Low nutrients and dehydration can be sneaky but very common causes of chronic fatigue. Okay, the third thing then is sometimes self-induced is stress or your lifestyle. It's kind of like what I shared. It's like if you're go, if your lifestyle's that way, or you have a lot of things just beating down on you, feeling tense, anxious throughout most days of the week. Do you struggle just to be able to turn it off? Go read, go for a walk, but you can't turn it off at night. Your brain's thinking, and so one of the things that helped me is getting out on prayer walks. I go out every morning and I'll probably 45 minutes to an hour and just to go pray. Because for one, I like to pray. I need to pray mentally. Need to connect. But also, you know what? It gets me outside. I love the weather, the difference of the weathers. Go down to the lake. It is relaxing. And so, you know, if you have constant adrenaline, it's eventually going to lead to burnout. And so you got to have stress management. You know, like I said, you know, you're breathing, praying, walking. Some people like journaling. It relaxes them mentally. And so you can reset your system fast with those things. You know, number 4 is being honest medically and medication. You know, any recent lab work? Have you been checking out? You know, thyroid, blood sugar, hormones. You know, are you taking a new medicine? You know, have you looked on, you know, what it lists, the side effects? Is fatigue one of them? You know, Patty's got lupus. We've talked about her lupus numerous times, and autoimmune diseases, heart, diabetes, can all lead to chronic conditions of stress. And so, you know, if it persists, like for over weeks, you know, you probably need to talk to a doctor. And, you know, that's where they earn their paycheck. You know, you want to rule out physical causes first. And then lastly is just really daily, you know, habits, you know, kind of like getting a snapshot of your daily habits. What's your caffeine intake? You know, I quit drinking iced tea after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Same thing with coffee. I will not drink coffee or caffeine after 2 because, you know what? I value my sleep. When I lay down, I want to be out and I want to get a good night's rest. I don't like to eat late. You know, after 6, you know, we're getting old people. We start eating at 5:30, and Charlotte's probably going to hate that. But you know what? I don't like laying down with a full stomach. It keeps me up. And you know, then obviously just that mental energy throughout the day. You know, how am I doing? You know, sometimes I used to hate naps. I used to despise naps when I was younger. But now that I'm getting older, I'm realizing, you know what? I don't have that 30-year-old body anymore. Sometimes I need to take a nap. And I can't take a long nap, you know, 5 minutes. But when I take that 5 or 10 minute nap, literally, it's just like a reset. You know, I got rebooted. And that's going to be good for another 5-6 hours for me. So I got to look at my day, you know, what's going on. So, you know, I think, you know, just being honest about stress, fatigue, it does wear you down. And, you know, I want to be a young spry at 64. You know, I want to, the older I get, the more energetic I want to be. You know, I'm starting to weightlift. I used to hate to weightlift. I'm doing more cardio now than I ever have. And I still walk probably 5-6 miles a day. And now I'm doing some more intense cardio. But I know as I get older, my body has got to keep up, and because fatigue is real. So, you know, hopefully those 5 things will be helpful just to think about. There's other things, but I would say those are probably the top 5, Patty, that I think about when I think about fatigue.
Thanks. Yeah. It's like, I think a lot of it, when Todd talked about just being honest, we have to be honest about where we really are, because sometimes I just don't want to look at it. And for what it's worth, we do go to bed really early, not too long after Charlotte. We just can't stay awake any longer. But we just want to be able to be the most we can be, you know, as we age, the most we can be for God, for Charlotte, and everything. So thank you so much for joining us. And I have a special guest writer for next week. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Bye.